the pious, to deliver the pious, and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I invent myself, millennium after millennium. As Krishna's appearance is for the deliverance and satisfaction of his devotees. Actually, he does not invent himself simply to kill the demons, for that can be done by his agents. Lord Vishnu's appearance at the sacrificial arena of Maharaj Nabi was just to please the king and his assistants, otherwise there was no reason for his being present there. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. O most worshipful of all, you are the best of all benefactors, and your appearance at saintly King Nabi's sacrificial arena is meant for our benediction. Because you have been seen by us, you have bestowed upon us the most valuable benediction. So, in the previous verses, it was saying how mankind will be benefited by the appearance of the Lord. It mentions here that in the purport that it pleased King Nabi. The Lord Vishnu's appearance at the sacrificial arena of Maharaj Nabi was just to please the king and his assistants. So if we have a good leader, a qualified leader, and we assist, we cooperate nicely with the leader, then when the Lord comes to bestow his benediction, it's not just the leader who gives it, but all the people that are assisting him as well. And what's nice about the Sankirtan Yogya is that when we go out and ask people for a donation, which is more for their benefit than for ours, because as we're finding, we haven't been out now for nearly a year, and no one's starved to death. So Krishna's looking after us. So we go out more for their benefit, and we share the good fortune that we have, that we received the message from Srila Prabhupada, and we started taking up the process of devotional service. And then we go out now to share that so that other people can also benefit from it. So so everybody is getting the mercy in one way or another. And this book distribution that Srila Prabhupada was so concerned that it went on. It was in this mood of how we can share the great benediction that we've received. So book distribution really means sharing. And the more that we share the nature of spiritual blessings, or the more that you share the blessings, the more blessings you receive. It's not that if you share it with everybody, you end up with nothing. A small portion of what you had increases, the more you can give it out. So even if you're a very selfish person and you're thinking, I don't really want to go out today, it's raining and I've got a hole in my shoe and my back is really sore, so I'd be much better off just to stay back and chant and make myself some nice halava with puris, and I can go on a diet tomorrow. And Srila Prabhupada said one time, he said, don't stay back at the temple and be fatty. That's what Prabhupada said, the same, be fat. He said, be fatty. Suppose you are kind of fatty, aren't you? If you've got a lot of fat on you, you can be called fatty. Don't stay back in the temple and be fatty, he said. Or don't stay back in the temple and be thin, for that matter. Oh, it's okay, I'm staying back in the temple, I'm thin, so I'm okay. He's fat though, he definitely needs to go out. Yeah, everybody needs to go out to help share because sometimes you don't know what your blessings are unless you share them. You'd be surprised. You may think that you're not doing well, and that you don't know much. When you go out to share, you'll see there's people do a lot worse off than yourself. So it helps you to appreciate that as well. And if you're finding it hard to sleep at night, instead of counting sheep, count your blessings. We have a lot of blessings. So sometimes we can forget that. And if we do forget it, then we will lose our appreciation. So we want to remain vibrant in Krishna consciousness and be in a mood of appreciation. Because the nature of appreciation is that it appreciates. So the more you appreciate, the more appreciation you'll have. And the more you criticize, then the more it'll depreciate. So you're either increasing your appreciation or you're decreasing. There's no other choice other than that, actually. So by not choosing to appreciate, that means you're automatically choosing not to. It's going to be one or the other. And sometimes you may see a devotee struggling, and although you can't quite put your finger on what it is that he's struggling with, if you can just show that devotee that you're concerned about him and his feelings and his needs, then that in itself encourages the devotee. Even if you don't get it right, you feel as though, well, I'm in a society where I'm cared for. So we should care for each other. We should be careful when we're chanting and careful when we're associating, which is careful is also full of care. We should care. So yeah, we should share this. It was the king Nabi and his assistants, and of course anyone else that turned up for the sacrifice. Can you imagine what that must be like? Imagine if the lockdown finished and we all decided to go down to Buchanan Street today. There was a huge crowd of people. We tapped somebody on the shoulder, what's going on? And someone said, oh, there's the bin went on fire, and then the next minute this blue guy popped out with 4 arms, and everyone's pushing in to see this guy there with 4 arms. Everyone's pushing. And as soon as they see him, wow, who's that? It's, I think he's Vishnu or something, somebody was saying. Vishnu. Yeah. Wow. Then everyone would change, everyone would get the benefit, even if they were just going down to do some shopping and they hadn't taken part in the sacrifice or whatever it was that was going on, they'd still get the benefit. In the same way, there's only a few of us here in Scotland chanting Hare Krishna. And so it could look quite bleak. You could think, well, so few people are doing it. How are we really going to have much of an effect? But everyone that comes in contact with the devotee that's chanting gets the benefit of the sacrifices that he's performed. And that's what we want. We want to share that so that when people come in contact with us, they have some kind of darshan of the Lord on one level or another, and they go away with some faith instilled within their heart that there is something, somebody, some all-cognizant force behind what's going on, and there is some meaning to our existence, and there is some goal in our life. So we may not necessarily establish that by hitting them on the head with the Bhagavad Gita until they submit. It may just be that they go away and think, he seemed like a really nice person. He was glowing and he looked very effulgent. And so they think about that person all the time. Like when we first came in contact with devotees, it had quite a profound effect upon us because we could see. I remember when I saw them on Harinam in Amsterdam, and I was just very impressed with how you could go out with a shaved head, because where I'm from, your haircut is very important that you have a good haircut, and to shave it all off is really like the last thing you would want to do. And then to go out in public and show everybody that you've shaved it off. It's like an act of tremendous courage. And then to not be wearing the latest designer jeans, but a cloth, a sheet, and dancing around, and to be completely uninhibited and unafraid of public opinion. It's very, very powerful experience, very impressive, very attractive. So for a lot of devotees, their first real urge to take up Krishna consciousness was seeing the devotees on Harinam and thinking, I'd like to experience that as well. So we're inviting people, please come and share the experience, the Krishna conscious experience, what Shyamasundar calls the Krishna magic. Krishna is very magical. Everything about Krishna is very magical. Krishna can do anything. He's all powerful, all cognizant, and he's all merciful. So it's a great combination. Very attractive combination. He's not grumpy. He doesn't take it out on people by throwing thunderbolts at him. He hasn't got a frizzy afro or a long beard or big muscles because he's been working out at the heavenly gym. He has a very beautiful, youthful, sweet, gentle personality. The best friend, he says he is the best friend. Of all your friends, he's the one who's really your best friend more than anybody else. And we've forgotten him, but he hasn't forgotten us. So we're trying to reestablish that relationship now. Trying to find our friend, our lost friend, our real friend. And then as soon as we do, we realize, well, if I'm a friend, what would you do if your friend was missing his friends? Then as a friend, you'd want to bring his other friends back to him. Bhaktaramya Gita, he's the well-wishing friend of everyone. So then you realize, well, everyone else is also his friend. And then he's missing them. So if I can go over and say, by the way, did you know that you've got a really, really nice friend that you've forgotten about? He's really beautiful. He's a really cool person. He does all kinds of far-out things. And he's unlimited. And you can have that relationship back with him if you want. And Krishna's very pleased. He says, one who shares this secret with the devotees, he is the most dear to me. And that's the best benediction. All these different, he's saying it's the most valuable benediction. He's the most worshipful, and he bestows the best and most valuable benediction. Because the most valuable and the best benediction is something which is eternal, and only Krishna can give you something which is eternal. The demigods can only give you something which is temporary, which in the face of eternal time is no more than a fraction of a second. You're given something and then it's snatched away immediately. It's not really benediction, is it? I say, Prashant, there's £1 million. And you go, oh, thank you, sorry. You can only have it for 3 seconds. Well, that's not much good, is it? Well, it isn't, no, it's not much good. Nothing in the material world is that much good because it's all temporary. So all you end up with in the material world is a mental impression of wherever it was that you had. That's all you end up with. Say today we all go down to the beach. Wow, it was fantastic. I had this massive ice cream. And we were swimming in the water and it was great. It was fantastic. But at the same time, tomorrow, all we'll have is a mental impression of that. We're not able to retain anything other than just a subtle photocopy of what it was. Whereas if you come in contact with Krishna, it's eternal. It's a hard one to get your head around, actually, that there is the eternal moment. There's no past and there's no future. It's just now, forever. But one way you can think of it is, it's like being in a really, really thin alleyway. The alleyway is just a tiny little chink, and you're standing in that alleyway. And on one side of you is the past, and on the other side of you is the future. And all you're occupying is now, which is a very, very fine slither between past and future. That's the material world. And the spiritual world is the alleyway suddenly just gets exploded by a nuclear bomb. And instead of it just being a thin alleyway that you're down, suddenly it just stretches as far as the eye can see. And that's what now is. No past, no future, just now. But the now is like all-consuming. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, if you can become fixed in the eternal present, then you'll be free of all doubts. He says, doubts are due to the time factor of past, present, and future. And he says, doubts cause arguments, and arguments cause anarthas. So arguments and anarthas are like resentments. We're resentful. You know, why did Krishna make it like this? Why has he made it so difficult? And we don't want to go with the program, so we don't surrender as much as we could do, because we still have some resentment. And that's all due to past, present, and future. Isn't that interesting? All our anarthas. If we can become fixed in the eternal present, then we don't have any arguments, any doubts. It's just the way it is. Which is an interesting logic, isn't it? Because we have a tendency to say, well, why is it like that? You know? And then there's a past, present, and future answer. Well, at one time it wasn't like that. Like, you know, the sky's blue. Well, at one time the sky wasn't blue, it was just a gas floating around the universe. And then it gravitationally got pulled around this lump of earth, and then the sunlight refracted through it, and therefore it's blue. So now it's blue. But if someone was to say, well, that's just the way it is. The sky is always blue, like in the spiritual world. Nobody's asking why the sky is blue. It just is blue. And the grass is just green. And the cows just eat the grass. And they just make milk. Nobody's asking, well, when did they start making milk? Why couldn't they make Coca-Cola instead? Why does it have to be milk? It's just, well, that's it, you know. The cow eats the grass and milk comes out. No one's asking, well, when did that happen, you know? Why couldn't we have had a strawberry milkshake instead of just milk, you know? It's just the way it is. And everyone's okay about it. And then down here where it was saying, well, you know, before this must have happened, and at this point this happened, and then at this, you know. So we get caught up in this past, present, and future, and trying to figure everything out. But we can't actually function like that. You just have to accept things and get on with it. You know, why do you have a hole in your head that you put things down to eat that goes into a sack? And you can be standing there all day thinking, well, that's a bit weird, isn't it? And then you just starve to death. But you don't, you just immediately start ramming things down. This is pretty good. You're not even thinking, well, why does it taste? How come I've got a piece of kind of rubbery skin at the bottom of the hole, and I rub that around it, and I can taste things? That's really weird. We just get on with it, right? Oh, well, that tastes nice. No one's like, taste nice? What do you mean? Taste nice? What's that? It's just the way it is, right? So your Krishna consciousness is we just accept that this is that Krishna is just always, and that's a hard one actually, because it's not that it comes in small digestible bites and then eventually you build up. It's all there in one go. Krishna, when you accept that Krishna is there, then you accept everything else as well. The cowherd boys, the cows, the grass, the land of milk and honey, the cows, the bees, everything, it's all there. Everything's just, it's like a big lump to swallow, it's everything. It's just always there. That's it. Which is kind of really, really simple, really. It's really, really simple to the whole solution, our existential crisis that we have, if you can just accept that, you see. But rather than trying to intellectualize that, the best way is just to invoke the Lord's presence, because once the Lord manifests his presence, Swayam eva sparat yada. Swayam is the personality. Sparat means to manifest. And yada means everything about Krishna, all his qualities and his names. Seva mukhi jivada. Just engage the tongue in seva. And even though your senses know bhavam graham indriya, although the senses are dull and gross, if you engage them in vibrating the holy name, Swayameva Smaratita. Krishna will just manifest. So that's the solution. If you're asking a really complicated question, you know, science teaching, you say, well, why does the molecule spin around like this and why is it like that? You know, and you're expecting this really, and the teacher just says, well, just say H2O, 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 and you'll just get it. You'll just know exactly what it is. And you say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I just have to keep saying that and that would? But that's the way it works with Krishna consciousness. It's not. It doesn't make sense. I'm just going to say this mantra. Vidyavadu Jivanam. Vidyavadu, the wife of all transcendental knowledge. So the wife follows the husband wherever he goes. So if you can establish Krishna, wife will be there automatically, his consort will be there automatically, and the consort is all the knowledge. So if you can just become aware, if Krishna manifests himself, if Vishnu steps through the sacrificial fire, you see him, you'll become aware of so many things will just make sense that didn't make sense before. Because that's the nature of illumination. That's why Keshan Eva Kampatam, Aham Agyam. Jnana Dipena Bhasvata. The Bhasvata, the glowing light of transcendental knowledge, Jnana Dipena, that will dissipate the darkness. So that's a different process. It's not, well, we come up with this formula and that makes sense, and that leads into this formula, and that makes sense, and that leads into this formula, and then that makes sense. Illumination is a little bit more dynamic than that. When you put the lamp into the cave, you see the whole interior, everything, you understand everything properly, all in relation to itself. That's real knowledge, to be illuminated from within the heart. So any questions or comments? Yes?
With this analogy the other day, how Krishna is expert in building relationship, and the analogy was like in a school, like a boy and a girl is there, and the boy is trying to get the girl's attention, but usually it's not like like spitting in her, but putting something in her mouth and spit from the back and trying to annoy her, and or kind of make her to fall somewhere in the corridor, putting leg or something like that. So in that way, it is kind of painful, for the girl, but at the same time, he gets her to think about him, and in that way, the rest is kind of history. They kind of attached, etc. So Krishna as well is like sometimes you feel, why this is happening to me. It's kind of hellish or hard or like a very tough situation. But Krishna is like an expert in building relationship. He kind of gets you to think about him. And through that thinking, the relationship deepens and awakens. And Mother Kunti, she's saying that the calamities come again and again, because it gets those calamities gets her to think about Krishna.
Yeah.
And if you look in the Krishna book, anything happens, any problem, you immediately just call for Krishna. Take shelter of Krishna, remember Krishna.
Yeah, the only real problem is our forgetfulness, isn't it? When we're not forgetful of Krishna, then the only problem is, the real problem is, and then we're thinking, well, the real problem is, I'm not comfortable. So we get comfortable, we feel safe, and then what do? We forget Krishna. So we're thinking, so Shishikona Dharma Shashiki Jaya. Srila Prabhupada makes the point in like the Bhagavad that the most intelligent thing to do is not to just remember Krishna when it's so difficult that like when the rain doesn't fall for so long, eventually living entities are almost dying of thirst and they're praying like anything, and then the rain comes. So, but the intelligent thing would be, well, why wait till you're almost about to die of thirst before you start praying for the rain. Just pray for the rain right now. Just beg for the mercy right now, rather than having to be forced into such a difficult. And so that's what we do, isn't it? Every day our program is to petition the Lord for his protection, understanding that our situation in our world is very precarious. Kamala dala jala, jiva natala mala. The jiva is like a jala, and it's talamala, it's tottering on a kamala, on a lotus petal. Kamala dala jala, jiva natala mala. Tottering like a drop of water, like a jala on a kamala. So if you understand how precarious your situation is in the material world, then you'll be really, really, you'll be chanting very, very good rounds, very earnestly. You'll be begging for help. But if you're not, and you become seduced by the material energy, and you think everything's okay, then your chanting will be subdued. And when something is subdued, it means it becomes covered over by a false sense of comfort and security. So then, people don't really see the urgency. They say, well, I haven't really got time for God right now. When I've done everything I want to do and I'm 65 on my last legs, 1 foot in the grave and 1 foot on a banana skin, then, then I'll think about it. But right now I'm okay, I'm doing fine, That's the people are doing that. They're gambling like that. But actually, we should grasp the urgency of the situation right now. Nobody knows when their life will finish, and they're not aware of how difficult and how awkward the situation is that they found themselves in, because they're distracted by the glitter of the material energy. So it takes a lot of determination and conviction. If you want to get out the material world, you have to be very determined to get out. It's not just going to happen automatically. If you're very determined, it will happen automatically. But being determined doesn't happen automatically. So where to get that the determination from? It's like Sankirtan. Sankirtan is easy to do, but wanting to do Sankirtan isn't easy to do. Not so easy to want to do Sankirtan. If you want to do it, it's very easy. Krishna consciousness is very easy if you want to. If you want to be conscious of Krishna, it's very easy. But the difficulty is we don't really want to be conscious of Krishna. Personally speaking, anyway.
I was reading Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's commentary on Putana this morning, and you were saying, how like a religion that it becomes very mechanical and ritualistic. It's like a tendency, the same came, Jesus Christ or Muhammad, and then everybody's like, wow, things are emotion and alive. The moment is alive and present, and then now you're gonna do like this, and so many times you do this, and you can have it in 2 hours, and etc. And you can become completely mechanical, lifeless thing. and that loses that real connection to Krishna. Then it becomes Putana, it becomes like a pseudo teacher, because that connection is no longer become ritualistic or mechanical, lifeless organism.
Yeah, Putana is the false guru, and also the mind is Putana, isn't it? The mind is also the false guru. And unfortunately, that false guru is very close, whispering in our ear, telling us all the time to do things, And like we were doing that drama the other day, the Korean bond, you do what the mind wants, and then the mind attacks you for doing that as well. So yeah, it's a false guru. It's trying to convince us that it has our best intentions at heart. And it can give you really, really convincing arguments why you need to listen to it. And how to make the mind a friend. Because a friend is someone that is your well-wisher. So how to get the mind to become your well-wisher and well-intentioned. How to be able to see. How to be able to do that. How to be able to And it's self-realization. You've got to work out yourself. You've got your own mind, and it's an intricate thing, and it's got you distracted from your purpose in life. So now we've at least identified that, okay, there's the holy name, there's me, and there's the mind. And I'm trying to get to the holy name, and this guy's in between me and the holy name. Very simple arena, really. Just three active principles: you, the mind, and the holy name. And you're going to try and get round this mind, or up underneath it, or over it, or just through it, somehow other than try and get to the holy name. And if you go to a jeweler's window and you look, you can see a very beautiful pearl necklace. Or you can look at the pane of glass and you can see your face. So when you're chanting, are you focused on the holy name, or are you focused on the mental platform? Or are you distracted by the mind? So how do we make the mind our friend? Well, we have to change the angle that we're looking at it. We have to keep it clean, because if there's all dirty things, we're not going to be able to see the pearl necklace very easily. So the mind needs to be kept very clean, crystal clean, and we need to be looking in the right angle, and then we need to be focused. We need to know what it is we're going to be looking at. Well, you're going to be looking up in a minute, and you're going to either see a very horrible face, which will be yours, or you're going to see a pearl necklace. This is what the pearl necklace looks like. You ready? Okay. And then you look at the... I don't know if anyone's ever noticed. Have you ever noticed when you're walking past here, outside the glass doors, and you go to look in at the deity, and as you go to looking at the deity, sometimes you can not look at the deity, but just look at yourself looking at the deity. You done that? And you go to, you think, I'm going to be really devotional now as I'm going past that. You go, and as you go, and then you walk past. And you didn't actually see the deities, you just looked at yourself. You ever done that? So you become distracted. So when you're chanting, you could be just checking yourself out, looking at yourself in the mirror of the mind. That wasn't so good the way he said that yesterday to me. It was a bit cheeky, actually. That. If he says that again, I'll give him a few things to think about. And then the holy name is, you're not even focused on it. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, yeah.
And then you didn't, because you were so focused on something else, you didn't even see the chimpanzee talking or the monkey coming in.
It was a guy dressed up as a gorilla. And you'd think, there's this video and it's showing you how your mind doesn't pick up on things, And he said, we want you to count how many people walk in with a white suit on and how many people walk out with a black one. So you're trying to count, that's the fourth one gone out, and always another black one coming, that's number 6, And then at the end of it, he says, did anyone see the gorilla? And I'm like, gorilla? Then he plays exactly the same thing again, and it's this guy walking in with like this massive gorilla suit on, and then because you're looking for it, you see, it's like, how did I even miss that, It's like a big, massive, hairy gorilla walking in amongst everybody. He didn't even see it. So it's like that in Japa, Krishna's there, and then at the end of the Japa, did you see Krishna? Oh, Krishna. I was thinking about him being rude to me, and then I have to sew a hole in my sock, and I had to do a text on my phone, and then I had to. But what about Krishna? Oh, no, I don't think I saw him at all. Well, he was right there for the 2 hours, right in front of you, in the sound vibration. So yeah, the mind is a tricky thing. One time a man was, it was just a story of a man, and he was going around, and he had this little dummy, and he was really afraid of the dummy. It was a ventriloquist dummy. So when he put his hand inside the dummy would suddenly come alive and say, what's this? I'm really annoyed at that person. You need to kill him. And you say to the dummy, but I don't think I can do that. And he goes, well, you better do it. And he was so scared of the dummy, he was killing people. And after he'd bumped off about 5 people, then he said to the dummy, I can't do this anymore. This is just so bad, you know. And so he says, well, what are you going to do? And he goes, I'm going to kill myself. So he kills himself, and as he's dying, the dummy says, you fool, you've killed me. So that's what the mind is like, actually. It's like we're afraid to disobey it and go against it. But actually, we have to learn to do that. We have to learn to make the mind our friend, actually, to try and show the mind that this is a good thing that we're doing. And that's why we read, and that's why we discuss. We're trying to convince the mind. It's easy to chant Hare Krishna, but it's not easy to get the mind to chant Hare Krishna along with you, you know. It's like a screaming, spoiled child. I never wanted to join this movement in the first place. I don't even believe that Krishna is God, you know. Swami Prabhupada, who's he anyway? You know, why are we wearing this funny stuff on our nose? 4 o'clock in the morning, I should be in bed. So that's the mind. The mind doesn't join, we join, and the mind never gets asked, you see. So it's getting dragged along reluctantly. I never said I wanted to join this. What kind of situation have you got me into here? I could be outside getting good education, making lots of money. What's all this nonsense, you know? And then we're trying to convince them, no, it's good. Do you remember Bhagavad Gita? Yeah, never mind Bhagavad Gita. What Krishna's saying. They're trying to make the mind our friend. So we have to have affection and be very tolerant with the mind, very painstaking, and just preach to it. We forget we have to preach to the mind. It's not just that we preach to other people, but we have to preach to our mind as well. It's a conditioned collection of impressions, desires, and sensual experiences, all collected together. And we've got to somehow convince it that this is going to be really good if you do it, you know. And if you think, no, I'll just, whatever you want, I'll just do it. Is that not going to make you happy? Okay, well, you just tell me, mind, what is it you want? And then the mind says, well, the first thing is I want to break all the principles. No problem, let's just do that. And then you'll be happy, I'll be, okay. So you break all the principles. And then you say to the mind, okay, is that okay now then? You're happy now? And then the mind says, what did you do that for? Well, you said do it. And then the mind says, well, you don't listen to me. Have you not been reading your Bhagavad Gita? You're supposed to control me, right? Look, we're going to have to go to hell now. So don't think you can make the mind a friend by doing what it wants. You'll only make the mind your friend when you control it and you discipline yourself and you act properly. And then the mind will be like, wow, this is really good. I'm so glad you did this. I'm so glad that you surrendered. This is fantastic. The mind will appreciate it. And you can say to your mind what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. He says, my dear mind, you are no Vaishnava. My dear mind. Okay, I will finish there then. Any questions, comments? ISKCON Guruvinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Bol.